We are pleased to be here with the rundown. We are going to get started here in just a second. I don't see it yet on Gestalt IT, Tom. Oh, wait. I do see it on Gestalt IT. Hey, that's us. Excellent. All right, we are live. Woo! Okay, so hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you have not ever before experienced the rundown, I hope that you enjoy it this time. This is my first time going solo without Tom Hollingsworth, but of course, I got a secret for you, and that is that Tom is actually secretly running this thing at the same time that he's running Networking Field Day. So, Tom, I took my hat off to you virtually. Thank you very much for your help. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to read the intro, Max, and then we're going to dive right in. Actually, Max, I don't have an intro for the first story.
No
Can you quickly write up one for the VMware vRealize story?
Absolutely. Let me try that.
All right. Thank you very much. And those of you watching, this is how the sausage gets made. Thanks for joining us. All right.
I'm going to need read access, write access for that, by the way.
Oh, I don't know. Just send it to me in Slack, and I'll paste it in.
Yeah, cool.
All right. We are getting there. Actually, Max, let's just switch that one with the D-Wave story, and then that gives you a chance to have some time to... All right. Good to go. Okay, so just go ahead and shoot me that in Slack, and I'm going to go ahead and read the intro now, okay? All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3. Welcome to the Gestalt IT Rundown, where each time we meet, we run down the IT news of the week with a variable degree of starkiness. I'm your host, Stephen Foskett, my first time hosting the Rundown solo. Joining me is the co-host, the darkest of Dark Avengers himself, Mr. Max Mortellaro. Max, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Stephen.
Thanks for joining us. I always do enjoy it when it's you and Tom when I'm not able to be on here, so hopefully you won't let me down. All right, let's kick things off with news or nah when we decide whether a story is worth focusing on or not. If there is a Tesla of quantum computing, it's the company known as D-Wave. They've been leading the pack and just announced a next generation quantum annealer, or chip, as we like to say. Max, what do you think of this? I guess overall, like D-Wave, quantum, all that kind of stuff, and also this next generation chip. Is this a big deal, or is it just more of the same nothing burger that quantum computing has been so far?
That's an interesting question. Actually, it all goes down or boils down to what we're looking into quantum computing. I think that it is still a very much narrow field as of now in terms of what is being produced and what it can be used for. So what I've been reading about that is that D-Wave, the chip they're making, seems to enable it solves specific use cases where you need apparently to do energy optimization problems. I'm not an expert in that field, by the way, and therefore it is very narrow in its application. The question is, who is that useful for? If we look at what we do in general purpose IT, I don't think that it's something which is that interesting, at least from my perspective. But for some very specific focused use cases, it might be a big deal. So I don't know what you think about that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I got to say, I'm super skeptical of D-Wave overall. I mean, I follow it from a kind of a non-tech perspective. In other words, I don't know what the heck it is. I don't know if it's the real deal. But I'm super skeptical of it. I'm not sure that this is really quantum computing at all. And if it is, I'm not sure that it's going to actually deliver the goods. But I guess we'll see. Frankly, I'm going to go with nah, just because basically it's quantum computing. And what the heck is even that, So anyway, I guess that's that for D-Wave. Up next, what do you got for me?
So what I've got for you, let me check that right now. Well, one thing we were talking about recently, and it's a discussion we have very frequently when we're chatting together, is talking about NUCs, if I'm saying that right in English. And it seems that you're a very avid user of NUC. So one point for you is you've been following that space, I think, very closely for many years. And I'd like to ask you, what do you think about the recently announced 11th generation of NUCs? Do you think that it's worth the upgrade, or is it something which is more of a non-event from your perspective?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited and kind of not. It seems like every generation of Intel NUC or NUC, it seems like every generation is pretty cool, but not quite there. And just as background, these are basically tiny computers that are full on, Intel computers, and you can run basically anything on them. They're super popular in the home lab world, especially, the VMware folks. A lot of the build home labs out of them. I actually just bought 30 of them, if you can believe that, to build a cloud. They are 5th and 6th generation NUCs, so they're way, way back when they had Atom CPUs and so on. And they're really, really cool. They're really useful, especially when you're doing things like what I'm going to be doing, which is like building a Kubernetes cluster, because they can run the latest software. They're super low power. They're super quiet. That sort of thing. The 11th generation incorporates the new, next generation Tiger Lake CPUs. That brings with it a bunch of cool features just inherently because of the CPU. You've got PCIe Gen 4. You've got Thunderbolt 4 built into it. You've also got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, 2.5 G base T Ethernet, including dual ports in some of the models. Now, it's important to note that these have not actually been announced. They were leaked. Our friend, Florian over on Vertin.net, I'm going to include the link in the notes here, has a rundown of what the systems have. It sounds really freaking awesome, but of course, most of that is really, like I said, just due to the fact that it's using the next generation CPU. And there's some big asterisks here. The biggest asterisk is that this NIC is not supported by vSphere. So that's going to be a problem, but that's been a perennial problem with the NUCs, and we've kind of worked around it. I'm excited. It's a next generation NUC. It's going to be faster. It's going to have some cool features. Not super excited. I'm going to go with nah. What do you think?
I think it's a pretty cool thing, and as you said, even if NUCs have never been formally supported, there's always been some kind of workarounds, and they are still so much popular with all the ES6 and VMware people. So I think it also makes a kind of nice introduction into the next topic.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So as like most of us do, we follow VMware pretty closely. We're pretty excited about, vSphere, but VMware is going into the cloud. And VMware actually at VMworld today or yesterday just announced the VMware AI Cloud. Is this the final realization of VMware software-defined data center, or is it just another AI washing for the sake of marketing?
Yeah, that's an extremely interesting announcement, and the entire discussion around what AI/ML is about and what it delivers is always a hot topic. One that it's the gift that keeps on giving, right? But in the context of VMware, I think that we're finally moving in the right direction in terms of what we were expecting from all of these tools. What we're seeing now, and what I've been reading about that, is what I was expecting to see in vRealize, actually not 1 or 2 years ago, but 8 years ago, when I was still a pre-sales consultant and we were being sold the concept of what vRealize is doing. At least if we're talking about vRealize, the operations part of vRealize, that's what we wanted. We wanted to get these health shields and all of this information coming in. But I think that it's still, at least if we focus purely on the VMware topic, that's a great advancement. No, if I understand it right, that is for now limited to vSAN. And the thing about this topic, which is about storage, is that VMware it seems on that aspect to be somehow catching up with the others. If you look what some of the other vendors have been doing, if you look at Pure One, for example, and other things, all of these recommendations and all is nothing new, actually. So it's news if you're in the VMware ecosystem, if you are a vSAN user, and if you're really investing heavily into those tools such as vRealize automation, vRealize whatever it's called for operations management and so on. But otherwise, I don't think that it's such a big deal, actually.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that basically they took the word AI cloud and applied it to basically an operations product when they actually have an AI cloud sort of coming with Monterey, which is something we're going to talk here in a minute. So yeah, I'm not super excited about it, but it is actually a really good piece of kit. I mean, it's good, it's undoubtedly good, but it's VMware catching up to what a lot of the other storage vendors are doing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and moving to some other news, Stephen, I know that Arista is a long-term field day presenter, and they just announced at Networking Field Day that they are acquiring Awake Security. So, since you know that company very well, what is Awake Security bringing to Arista? Is it really big news, or is it just another acquisition for IP? Or what do you think about that?
Well, some of Arista's competitors have really been making hay with their AI-powered security products, and basically that's what this is. If you've been following Juniper and Mist, which I'm sure Arista has, and I'm sure Arista has been watching with the evil eye as Juniper makes waves with Mist, and as other companies in the space, I know Aruba's working on it. I mean, throughout the HPE portfolio, I know Cisco's got a lot of AI-powered stuff. Arista needs it too, and they've got it. Awake was a pretty good product. It was pretty well respected, and now it's part of the Arista family. But again, is this news? Well, it's news in the fact that they just announced it, 2 days ago, and that they use this as part of their announcement at Networking Field Day. It's certainly interesting. If you're interested in what's going on here with security and networking, I urge you to check out the Arista videos from Networking Field Day 23. Those will be posted probably today or tomorrow on techfieldday.com. But I'm going to go with kind of nah overall, because it's not like this is a groundbreaking product.
Mm-hmm.
So Max, over here in the States, one of the largest hospital systems was just hit by malware. They just announced a couple of days ago that Universal Health Service has all the hospitals across the country. The media is saying that this is the Ryuk ransomware and has disrupted operations at these hospitals. Of course, the hospital is playing it down. The hospital's not even saying the word ransomware. What do you think of stuff like this? Is this news? Is this just the latest in a series of attacks, or is this sort of a next generation situation?
Very good point. So in my view, this is just the latest attack. I don't think it's something more serious is going on. And the reason why I'm saying that is that so first of all, ransomware attacks are happening in all of the verticals possible. Healthcare just gets always more attention because the life of patients is threatened. So it's not the same stuff as not being able to upload your runs for 3 or 4 days, right? But in the case of that US healthcare network, it's a big one. It's a Fortune 500, if I get it right, and therefore the impact is much more massive because they have much more hospitals. But it doesn't seem that this is a change in operating model or that it is a higher threat or something of this kind. Because if you would have many healthcare organizations targeted at the same time and all going down at the same time, then you will think about some kind of coordination, some planning, some kind of agenda behind that. But in that case, it just seems to be one, hacker, malware organization, whatever you want to call that, which is focusing on one big company because they are hoping to extort some money out of them. So for me, it's not something serious. It's not an escalation. Who knows? But it doesn't feel like one, at least.
Yeah. And I got to agree with you. I feel like a lot of this stuff is just sort of the next bad news in a long line of bad news. And it's almost hard to get excited about yet another hospital getting yet another malware attack. But I think maybe what the story here is just the fact that this is such a big hospital group. They have their IT systems are spread across, and of course, that's what hospitals are trying to do right now. They're buying, big ones are buying small ones. They're trying to use the same IT systems across all of them, and that spreads the risk, and that creates a new risk. But yeah, I think it is just sort of the next in a series of of hacks.
Okay, so moving on to some of the main topics, we've been talking for months about Intel, stumbling with their horse race in the semiconductor manufacturing about their 10 millimeter process, and one of the challenge there is trying to figure out what does their naming convention means. Actually, it's hard to figure out, and I think you spotted a great article on AnandTech which just covers how confusing the naming for the 10 millimeter process is. So, what do you think about this situation?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about semi-manufacturing, and it's funny because it's like, oh well, is 14 really 14, or is that the equivalent of 12, or maybe 12 is the equivalent of 10, maybe 10 is the equivalent of 7. Intel says that they're like 10 plus 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 is the equivalent of the TSMC 7, and it's just like, well, I don't know. But now it gets even more confusing. I had been wondering about this for a while. Many of you might have seen the term superfin out there in the press when you're hearing about semiconductors and next generation. We talked about the Tiger Lake announcement, and it uses 10 nanometer superfin. Well, what the heck is 10 nanometer superfin? I mean, what does that even mean? So Anand, like you said, they kind of dug into this. It's actually a really nice bit of investigative journalism. I have to say, I'm going to tip the hat to them for digging into this. They spoke to tons of people within Intel on the engineering and the marketing side, and they uncovered the fact that basically there are literally 10 different ways that Intel has referred to their various 10 nanometer project or processes. Now, there's really only 4 different variations, but there's literally like all sorts of different things, and they kind of shifted it, and they kind of want to forget Cannon Lake because that one sucked. And so they kind of just moved forward to Ice Lake and call that 10 nanometer instead, even though that was 10 plus. Anyway, the bottom line is that there's kind of OG 10, which was the Cannon Lake product that was terrible. There's what they call 10 now, which is Ice Lake, Snow Lake, and so on, which are their, kind of their current products that are out there. Then there's 10 Superfin, which is basically the plus version of 10, which is what's in Tiger Lake. And then there's Enhanced Superfin, which is coming next with the XE graphics. And I think that those of us who are kind of maybe not quite as in depth with this stuff, maybe we can enjoy the fact that now that we know that Superfin just means kind of plus, and Enhanced Superfin means plus plus. I guess that's good. I really hope that we don't see a rehash of what Intel did last time around, with where they had 5 pluses, super ultra enhanced Superfin. I don't think so. Please, Intel, please help us to just know what's what. I don't know. But hey, Max, let's talk a little bit back to VMware, which is a little bit more interesting here. So we talked earlier about the vRealize AI Cloud, which, like I said, is actually not a cloud of AI, but in fact, AI to manage clouds. But we also heard about VMware's Project Monterey. They're partnering with companies like Pensando, Nebulon, NVIDIA, and they're building a composable infrastructure solution around next generation smart network cards. These cards are known as DPUs, or data processing units. And this is the reason NVIDIA bought Mellanox, basically, because Mellanox had a horse in this race. So I know you've seen presentations, Max, by Pensando and Nebulon at Field Day events. And I know that you've been following these things over at Tech Unplugged. And you've, of course, everybody knows about Mellanox, at least if you're nerds like us in this industry. What do you think of Project Monterey? Is VMware really a credible name in composable infrastructure? And is this how they get there?
I think it's Project Monterey is a big deal. To get to your first question, is VMware a credible, company in that field? I don't think that VMware is really credible in that field. However, VMware has some experience in kind of bringing all the things together. And the way I see that evolution where we went from, so we've had the virtualized world, which we know very well, well and over. We have Kubernetes, which is yet something a bit of a nebula, not to think about Nebulon, but anyways, it's a bit kind of, we know what they want to achieve and all. And then we have infrastructure and composable infrastructure. And there, I think that VMware has a role to play in kind of orchestrating all of these composability, right? We know that Mellanox/NVIDIA are doing these DPUs, if I get the term right. We know that all of the major vendors are working on composability in one way or in another, or at the very least have a Gen 1 product in that area. We know that there is this consortium, I forgot the name, but there is a consortium which is, I think this is the DFS or ZFS, it's not ZFS, ZFS. Anyways, there is a consortium to which all of the major vendors are participating into, and they are building standards for the next generation of composable infrastructure. And I don't see a reason why VMware couldn't play a key role here in building the orchestration around that. They've done that with vSphere, they've done that with Cloud Foundation, and so on. And it seems to be yet another version of the SDDC, not the software-defined data center, but the composable data center, perhaps, So I think that yes, it does make sense, and if they're able to bring that vision, it will be absolutely great. And by the way, it kind of builds into some of the experience they have working with AWS. If you can compose the infrastructure properly, you don't even need to have VMs anymore. If you can cut and slice your architecture as you want. I mean, we've seen that. I remember very well from the presentation we had from Liquid at the last Dell Tech World in Vegas, where we were together. And that was somehow part of that vision. So I do think that it's an interesting project, definitely.
Yeah. And I think that, the interesting aspect with these DPUs too is that, it is something that allows us to have maybe better performance and, kind of maybe break down a bit the whole data gravity question, because, if your NICs also have, compute power and programmability, this really is kind of a clever solution. I know that you are with me in probably when you saw the Pensando presentation for the first time, or the Nebulon presentation. I'm sure you were thinking, oh, it's like Coho data, where the network is part of the storage, right? And I think that's it seems like a really clever idea, a really cool idea. And certainly there are a bunch of companies, really respected folks working on these things. We had Nebulon present at Field Day. We've had, Pensando present at Field Day. And actually, for what it's worth, on Tuesday, we're going to have a presentation from Pensando on Project Monterey with Tech Field Day. So I'm pretty excited to see that and kind of dig into this. My take on Monterey overall, like you said, this is another example of VMware continuing to make themselves relevant in the future of the data center, even as technology changes around them. I mean, who would have thought that the VMware desktop company that let you run, Windows on Mac back in the day would be the future of the data center. But it certainly is. And I think that this is actually a really good move for them, because it shows that they're continuing that progress on owning the next generation data center. And speaking of that, continuing progress and owning the next generation data center, we got to talk conferences too. So VMworld is going on right now. I'm not there, you're not there, nobody's there. It's a legendary conference, though. It brings together the entire industry, and it's easily the best attended conference for people like you and me. But thanks to the pandemic, it went virtual this year. What do you think of conferences this year? What do you think of VMworld this year? And what does it mean for the future of conferences in general?
Yeah, so as you clearly stated, I'm not at VMworld this year. I just didn't have the chance to get there. But talking about conferences this year, at the very least, I think I've been writing something on that very recently. Um, you know, virtual events are hard. It's really difficult, especially so. It's hard in general because a virtual event is competing for your attention. When you're at a physical event, you are there physically, you are present, you are focused, you are extracted from your natural environment, from family, from children, from work obligations, and you're just put in a place where you can focus with like-minded professionals, hopefully. And therefore, the old world of physical events was something that I really appreciated because it allowed me to focus in ways I couldn't otherwise. This new world of virtual events is really hard, at least for me, to focus on. You means the you kind of even if you are watching a session from a very respected community member, you do kind of lack the how to say that, the physical presence, the attention, the nonverbal communication. Even if you see that on a screen, it's not the same as seeing that in real, right? It's all the signals that we're kind of getting unconsciously, that our reptilian brain or whatever you want to call that processes. So that kind of breaks down the interest. And most importantly, what makes VMworld legendary is the community that was built around it, the people it brought together. And I really used to say, you'll tell me if you think the same, that I go to VMworld not so much for the presentation, the keynotes, but I go there for the friends, for the community, for the people, for the intellectual stimulation, which I get from going there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And from my perspective, VMworld is the pinnacle community event. But of course, there's basically no community around it this year officially. But that got me thinking. Frankly, there hasn't been a lot of official community at VMworld for a long time. It's all been unofficial. I don't want to talk out of school about anybody, but I know people who go to VMworld without ever getting a pass and don't ever go to anything. They just go to the show and talk to the people. You get a hotel room, maybe you bunk up with somebody else. You spend 3 or 4 days walking around San Francisco and talking to people. That's freaking fantastic, and VMware is lucky to have that kind of dedication from people who are willing to fly in and not even see any of the conference, not even see any of the presentations or anything. And that's actually kind of happening. I'll give a little shout out here to a friend of mine. There's a Discord community called Orbital Jigsaw that has just a tremendous alternative community running right now. Basically, think of what they used to call the V hallway track. That's what's going on over there at Orbital Jigsaw. So if you're interested in that and you want to attend VMworld, the social parts of VMworld, just go to discord.gg/orbital jigsaw and you'll find that community. Tell them I sent you. But I think that this is, well, VMware should be maybe a little worried about this because frankly, if a third party is providing what it was that we got out of VMworld, maybe we don't need VMworld anymore. Maybe if it's all about the community, maybe we can do that. We do need some kind of focal point. We need to bring people together. It is really hard for companies to do this. A couple of weeks ago, we had a sprint with NGINX, and one of the people in our Tech Field Day community, Calvin Hendricks Parker, he developed the platform for the Python user group or user conference, and we deployed that with Calvin and NGINX as a sprint for the virtual conference. And I really liked it because it was content first. It was really interesting. It was trying to bring in that community, but it just showed how hard it is to do these things virtually. One of the things that really killed us was the hackathon. Oh my gosh. It's so hard to do a hackathon when you're not in a room with a bunch of, Cokes and snacks. That was a big challenge for them. But on the flip side, we had people attending from all over the world.
I think that anyways that is a common trend we're seeing with all sorts of events. Even the tech field day. The physical presence is so much important. And to say what you to complement on what you said about VMworld, people flying in and just booking a hotel. I mean, we've been doing that in EMEA as well. I mean, in EMEA it's even better because you get from all over Europe. And I have to say that one of the years I was even to the point where I didn't know if I would get a pass or not. And I really told some of my close community friends, look, I don't care if I get a pass or I don't get a pass. It's the time of the year when I get to see my friends, to get the important people in my life in this community, because I mean, it's more than just people knowing each other. It's close bonds, it's people helping each other, it's really close friendships. And I say, I'm gonna be there whatever happens. You guys have fun during the sessions, I'll see you in the evenings and we'll get together. So really something that VMware should really cherish.
Yeah, I usually, I'll just say that I usually go out, try to get at least a pass, even if I don't use it. I love, Cisco Live has had basically a cheap pass. VMware sometimes has had this as well. Just because I feel guilty if I would go to their show without having a pass. But there have been times that I have never used the pass that I got. In other words, I never walked past anybody checking badges because that's like not the thing, right? We were all just, doing everything else. And there's all these other, wonderful community things. You've got the V Brown bag, you've got VM Underground, you've got all the stuff going on with the vendors and briefings, and but it just doesn't feel the same this year. I'm sorry, I just can't wait to get back in person. Tech Field Day is virtual right now. We're going to have in-person Tech Field Day just as soon as we possibly can. I think maybe Tech Field Day will be able to revive soon, but let me ask you, Max, and then we'll ask the audience as well. What do you think? When is there going to be another VMworld in the classic sense, if ever?
Well, I do really hope that we're going to see some kind of normalization around 2021. It all depends about what's going to happen, of course, with the situation around the world during the autumn, fall, winter time. See how it's going to evolve. Whether we're going to see some improvement, maybe with vaccines or whatever is going to happen, or maybe we will just get used to the fact that this thing is around and that we kind of need to shift the way we're doing things. And as a species, we've always adapted, and I'm sure that we will adapt as well even this time. But really, I can't wait to get back physical. And I swear I will not complain about coffee anymore.
Hey, there's some good coffee. You can get some good coffee in different places. Oh man, yeah, I agree with you. I think that the earliest we'll see a big open conference would be the second half of next year, and I'm going to go out on a limb and think, we might not even see it then. It might be a couple years before people feel comfortable, because it's not just the law and availability of vaccines and stuff, it's people's personal comfort. And I don't know when people are going to feel comfortable, enough people, a critical mass of people are going to feel comfortable getting on a plane, going to a big conference center, mixing and mingling with people from all around the world. It feels like a lifetime ago that I was in San Francisco for the RSA conference. And that's the last conference I attended. And hopefully it won't be the last conference I ever attend. So on that positive note, I guess let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you guys for joining us. I'd love to hear from you. Please tweet at @sfoskett and tell me when you think conferences are going to come back. I don't know. We'll see. So please remember that the rundown is available as a podcast as well. And it's live on YouTube every Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Pacific, at youtube.com/Gestalt IT video. We also post the videos of this on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Gestalt IT. We'll be back next Wednesday to talk about all the IT news of the week that was, probably me and Mr. Tom Hollingsworth himself. Until then, for myself, for Max Mortellaro, and of course, Tom Hollingsworth and the rest of the Gestalt IT family, here's wishing you and yours a super sparkly VMworld. Take care.